Okay, everyone is getting in. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We'll just wait a few seconds for everybody to join us. Okay, I think most of people are in. Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to be putting our heads of department and captains under the microscope. We'll be discussing leadership with you. So before everybody introduces themselves, we would like to launch a poll, because today we're going to be talking about you, about your experience, and we want to hear your opinions and thoughts as well. So it's going to be a very interactive webinar. So I'll be launching the poll now. Please don't be shy. And let me see. And in the meantime, if everyone can start introducing themselves briefly while people go and fill in the poll. Thank you. Let's start. Maybe Michal, that you're at the top of my screen.
Sure. My name is Michal Pierce. I've been a maritime captain for 17 years in Australia and the Mediterranean mainly. Before that, I used to work in corporate world in London, where I got a lot of leadership management training. I'm principally shoreside now, and I teach helm management at Bluewater in Antibes. So that's me. Thanks.
Thank you, Michal. Marianne?
I'm Marianne Dennison. I've got 35 years experience in the yachting industry. I spent 11 years at sea and the last 21 years already at Kemper Nicholson's. It's pretty obvious, you can see the beautiful logo. And I am the head of the yacht management division, and we look after many yachts and many crew.
Thank you, Marianne. Karen?
Good afternoon, everyone. I've been involved in leadership development for some 25 years now, and having briefly worked on board back in the early 2000s, I founded Impact Crew back in 2007, thinking the industry was ready for us to bring essentially team and leadership development to the maritime industry. We're also research-based, and both between myself and our team of coaches and consultants, we work with crew onshore and aboard. And for the past 10 years, I've been involved in the design and delivery of the helm operational and management.
Thank you, Karen. Kelly?
Hi, I'm Captain Kelly and currently based in Palm Beach, Florida, running a fleet of boats now, and also focused very intently on my Yachting Minds Matter and mental health awareness and efforts, and hopefully leading the way and a cultural landscape change when it comes to mental health and our wellness on board.
Excellent. Thank you. And Robin?
Yes, my name is Robin. I sound a little bit sick, sorry about that. I'm the founder and managing director of the Global Institute of Leadership and Technology. We're an executive education company focusing on exactly those two things, technology and leadership, working with companies from all different kind of size. And I'm really excited to be now in this group of people that are living on the sea, because my part on the sea is only that I'm a hobby skipper every year on the Adriatic and sailing my small little boats around. Guess that qualifies me hopefully for super yachting as well.
Thank you, Robin. And now I'll introduce myself very briefly. My name is Kim Llorente. I'm the operations manager at the Professional Yachting Association based in Antibes. And we are a nonprofit organization for those who don't know us yet. And we're organizing this webinar for you guys in collaboration with Bluewater. Sarah is here co-hosting with me. Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself briefly?
Hi, everyone. I'm the event manager at Bluewater. I'm joining you from the south of France today. Maybe when you finish the poll, drop us a note in the chat and let us know whereabouts in the world you are today. My main role is to deliver insightful and worthwhile events for all yacht crew, in person and online. And you'll find a list of events in your crew profile. So maybe After today's session, you can log in and join us for more upcoming events.
Thank you, Sarah. So not everyone has answered all the questions in the poll yet. Please do. In the meantime, perhaps we can start looking at some of the results together with our panelists. From what I can see already, question number 1, which department you are on board? Most of the people who are here today are either in the deck department or land-based, which is very interesting. So it's great that we have people from both on board and land-based positions. And second question, what kind of leader are you? And I can see that the most voted response is I listen to everyone's opinions before making a decision, which is very interesting. So first of all, what do we mean by leadership, right? Because there are many ways that we could interpret leadership. And I want to ask our panel, what are their thoughts about this, considering also this first response that we've heard, which is I listen to everybody's opinions before making a decision. So who would like to go first?
I'll go.
Okay, go, Kelly.
Leadership for me, and probably one of the most essential skills is being being vulnerable. Because if you're vulnerable with, in this case, our crew, or wherever, for me, my crew, since I'm on board, if I am vulnerable with my crew, then that breeds trust. And if trust is bred throughout the team, then that ultimately ends up creating the most high functioning team that you can have. So I think that probably one of the most important skills to have is as a leader is vulnerability. And then probably the second most important skill is knowing that as a leader, you're not supposed to have all of the answers. You're not going to have all of the answers. And it's pretty awfully hard on yourself to expect yourself to have all of your answers. And I also encourage, though, if there's any crew listening too, to understand that your captain is there as the leader, as the visionary, to put together the most high performing and best functioning team that they can. And we can't possibly have all of the answers. So that's again why we have to really, I think our responsibility is to work as hard as we can to producing the best and well put together team that we can.
Thank you, Kelly. Who'd like to go next?
I have 5 words on that: respect, empathy, good communication, integrity, and knowledge. They're not my words. In Helm class, every Monday I ask about leadership, and they're the students' words. Invariably, I put them up on the board, and I think that's a good assessment. And often I end up asking the students, well, do you identify with those in yourself?
Go ahead, Karen.
Sorry, Marianne, I've leapt in front of your good hand. Sorry. I think one of the important factors for a leader is the need to be a bit of a chameleon, actually. It's about being flexible, about being adaptable, because it depends on the situation, it depends on the individual. Some research has asked what is it that people want from their leader, and quite often we hear things like someone who motivates and inspires me, and someone who actually listens to me. So it's good to hear that your poll agree with you.
Thank you, Karen. Marianne.
I'll bounce on everyone's comments. Leadership doesn't come without the support and the help of the team. Leadership and team all go together. Without the team, you can't be a leader, and vice versa. So in the way of leading a team, as much I believe on board the vessel as in a team ashore, and as you know, I work ashore, it's really the person who answered your question came by saying you listen to others before making a decision. That is very honorable. And I would say, depending on the situations, it's always good to make decisions with everyone's input and then weigh the good and the bad and then make a common decision based on the teamwork and based on what you're trying to achieve. So for the teamwork to work, you need to go back a few steps by putting a mission in place for the team to go to and enable everybody in your team to go to that goal together. And like Kelly rightly said, we don't have all the answers as a leader, and bounce on everyone's expertise to be able to move forward and reach that goal together. It's amazing what people can do when they are very united. As I always pretty much say, I'm probably one of the luckiest managers in this industry, because I have a very snug team where everyone is helping each other, because we all have different qualities and we have that insight. On board a vessel, every person is as important as a captain. And I saw a quick question. Should I answer that question, Kim, which is there in there is questions and answers.
Yes, since you're at it, go ahead.
I saw that question. It caught my eye. How somebody asked, how do you suggest us to deal when the captain leadership gets questioned and bypassed every day by a micromanagement obsessed manager? I feel very sorry for the person having a micromanagement obsessed yacht manager, because the role of a yacht manager is to work together with the captain for what the owners actually want at the end of the day. So it should be teamwork between the vessel and the shore management. So if you have a micromanagement team, you might need to think about finding people that you like to work with. I don't think anybody, if it's forced upon you, well, it's bad luck. But maybe it's also about training the management in understanding your position. And it's only by sharing knowledge that you'll have people shift their point of view and how they'll lead their teams respectively. So teamwork and leadership for me goes in many directions. It's not from the top down, it's not from the bottom up. It's a complete mix, mixing people's qualities and knowledge.
Thank you, Marianne. Robin, can we hear what your thoughts are?
I mean, the hardest question to ask about what is leadership actually, because no matter where you look, there's no real right or wrong about that, and there's no like real hard definition that we have all agreed upon to say like this is the way to follow. And I think it's not really important which one the right definition is. It's more about having the clarity on what the definition for oneself is, so that we're talking about the same things in the same context. So for me personally, it's like one big competence that stands out when we're talking leadership, and that's the part of activating people towards a common goal or a team. And this resonates pretty much with everything the others already have said here. The big team compartment, if there's nobody else there, then you don't need a leader. That's one part. And I think another really important part that directly also resonates to what Kelly was saying, I'm using a little bit different words here, is that you can stay actionable in times of uncertainty, right? Kelly, you used the word vulnerability. You don't need to know everything by yourself, but nevertheless, you need to move forward in some way, which might be that you're asking someone else to take the decision, that someone else takes on the ownership of something, that you're bringing together the bits and pieces around you to work towards what you're having, right? That you're not stuck in inaction because nobody knows what to do. And based on that, there's so many different kind of styles and so many different ways how leadership can function, and whatever kind of skills you want to bring in. Someone is more of a caring leader and is more engaged with the team on a day in, day out. Another one is more like a little bit cooler mentor that is not so emotional, but nevertheless doesn't achieve less good results. And really, for me, leadership is something that occurs on all levels within the organization. It's not just, in this case, the captain or the manager or the CEO of a company, but leadership is every day, and everybody needs to partake in some way. So if I'm, as the captain in this case, influencing a decision, then I also need to be open to be influenced by someone else to take better decisions. So it's in both directions, an everyday skill, and that's why I think we should all take on this responsibility of how we actually move forward as a team.
Thank you, Robin. So let's move on with the next poll question. And we've asked our guests what they've experienced. And not surprisingly, they've experienced both negative and good management. Very few people answered only good management, and quite a few negative leadership, but the vast majority both. And the following question was, should the captain have all the answers? And the vast majority answered no, but they should be aware of all the issues on board. That might want to be commented on a little bit. Who wants to go?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that there is a largely negative reaction towards the leadership. You got to understand that as master of a vessel, what you did almost all day, every day was admin and management of people, and not necessarily in that order. The two things that you've little or no training for, and hence the results are there all to see. So sadly, that result isn't that surprising. I think, Kelly, you were generous when you mentioned it was 10% and the 90% rule.
You might want to explain that sentence, because that's a very good one.
Yeah, so I said that captains spend 90% of their training to do 10% of their job, but spend 90% of their time doing 10% of what 10% of the training was for. So what I mean by that is we spend our whole entire career training for boat handling, weather, and nav. That's 10% of our job. 90% of our job is people management.
Absolutely.
And we get so little training on people management.
And it's not surprising that the results are the results. There is operational helm and there is management helm. And I can assure you 90% of those who turn up because they have to. It's compulsory.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, sorry.
Yeah,
that training.
Go on, Marianne, go for it.
Go for it.
No, that training of helm is a great start, and I think Karen can also vouch for that. For many years, we've been pushing for leadership training, and then we've known each other for 20 years and put that forward. Even though the helm training is only become mandatory because, like you say, people go there because they must do it for their training. I know only very few captains who do it repetitively every 2 years to be on top of the game in terms of leadership tools that you can use with your team. And I can't express enough the fact that the leadership is not just a business of the captain, it's a business of everybody. Because the teaching goes up and down, like I said, and it's so crucial that people help each other growing in whichever direction to make it work.
And I think it was quite interesting is you quite rightly say people attend helm because they have to. Hopefully by the time they leave, generally speaking, Michael, I hope you agree that they go probably one of the most useful courses I've ever attended. I just wasn't expecting it.
I would agree absolutely, Karen. The attitude by people leaving, saying, "Oh yes, there is actually merit to all this," and I do get, you're absolutely right.
And just in answer to one of the questions Captain Herbert put in here regarding the MCA paper called Leading for Safety, there's two versions of it. So I'm not entirely sure which one you're referring to. The old one, which was all around leading for safety and situational awareness, etc., and the more recent one, which identifies some qualities of great leadership, which I'm hopeful that that's where the MCA will be moving the revised helm course to in the next 5 years. Currently, it's quite specialist towards safety management.
Whilst we're on the helm, Kim, do you want to, what's the answers to the is helm enough? Skipping forward to that question.
Yes. So most people replied no. And there are quite a few that actually replied, I don't know. Maybe they've just done their helm course, so maybe they're not sure yet. But that's interesting as well.
Yeah, someone's asked a question, people skills, leadership skills, should they be learnt earlier? We talk about just the captains and the HODs, but is it the junior crew that needs to be introduced to?
Well, I think when you're talking about, go on, Robin.
No, just so I think like one of the biggest problems we have with all these leadership trainings is that we believe we can put everything into 2-day courses. So we send people to a 3-day empathy course and then we expect them to be empathetic. That doesn't really work out. It's an ongoing everyday kind of thingy, and it starts early on. So if we're saying like, oh, you're now 20 years in your career, you should now start taking leadership responsibility, then something is already wrong. This is something that everybody needs to take on in some way, because there's a couple of things that apply to every role, no matter if you're entry level or senior in your role. One thing, for example, is ownership. Taking ownership of the work you're having at hand. Ownership is one of the biggest leadership skills probably out there. And then as part of this ownership, also taking this responsibility and learning out of that. I think that's really important. I think we really need to get rid of this understanding of saying like leadership is only at the top. No, it's everywhere. And it's something that we can't just train with a 24 hours offsite course somewhere, but this is something that we need to constantly work on. One of the biggest observations we have when it comes to leadership tools and methodologies is not that the people are not aware of that they're not knowing the tools, that they're not knowing how to use the tools, but it's that they have so many and using none of them because they're not implemented into their daily lives. We are really good with management on that, and we know all these management tools, we can implement them, then we have a controlling tool in the back, and management works really fine. But when it comes to leadership, we are not constantly working on that. And I think it's way more important than giving people more tools to say, like, take this tiny little one, use it every single day, and then something will happen. And if this is stable, then we add another thing. Because as everybody rightly said, it's about people. And this is a constant game. It's not, I'm empathetic one day and then not for the rest of the year. It needs to be constant. And if we embrace this a little bit more, I think we will be much, much better off. Which is not saying that we don't need like these dedicated 2 day, 3 day, 4 day leadership trainings. That's not what I'm saying. But I think we can't just hope on 3 days if nothing happens then in reality on the day-to-day operations.
What I find quite often, actually, just to tie into what you're saying, Robin, is guys who come into the class and girls, and it's more and more girls, they say, oh my God, I didn't realize that everyone else had exactly the same problem as what I did. So being a head of department or a master can be a bit of a loner's job, right? And it ties in nicely with what you're saying, that, you know, a pure refresher to understand that you're not the only person experiencing this and have those growing pains. It is a job that's never done, leadership. It's always a journey.
It is, and I want to echo on that. And Robin, you made a lot of good points, and accountability, and so making yourself accountable for continuing your study of leadership. And this is probably one of the simplest pieces of advice that I could offer as a leader, and something that I do every night. So, you know, when I clock out from work, you know, and I want to decompress, whether it be exercise or whether it be watch something on TV or read a book or whatever, I make sure that I spend every night some period of time either reading an article on leadership, watching a YouTube video on leadership, reading a book on leadership. So I have committed to my own self that every day, some days I may only have 20 minutes, you know, left of brain power to do it. Sometimes I, you know, might spend 2 hours a night studying leadership in some form. But that is something that I have committed myself to advance my own leadership. You're responsible for it. You can't just say, well, I took the 5-day Helm course and that's it. And another good point that one of you guys mentioned is that leadership's a two-way street. We're all leaders in some capacity. It's not just the captain. It's not just the HOD. It could be the youngest and freshest deckhand or interior crew member. You are a leader in some capacity, even if it's just being a leader of your own life.
Do you include the leadership to be conflict resolution as well? Because a question has come in. We're putting it all onto the captain, have it, or the HOD have to have the people skills and you know, be able to be people managers and good leaders and motivate. But what happens when there isn't an issue with someone's posted a question with their one of their crew members? And there's also an issue there that maybe they're suffering with some mental health. The captain's got to take care of everybody. What's the right approach to when there is someone on board that you can't keep saying, well done, great job, because you feel they need the confidence boost, but when they're not doing a great job, you're not their friend, you need to then be their leader.
May I answer this one? I think as a leader, you need to set the tone from the start of where you want to go with your team. So if you engage them and if you give them that mission, everyone is an equal participant to reaching that goal. And if you have somebody who's having, we all talk about mental stress and mental health. We have to prevent it from happening. Captains are not doctors. It's not for them to go and cure the person who already has mental issues and needs medical help. So in order to avoid for those things to happen, you have to detect what are the first signs of somebody being mentally under stress or feeling ill or feeling weak. And if somebody is feeling down one day, it is for the team to bring him up. That means we are not linear. There are days where you are in a great mood and there are days where you've had bad news and you just don't feel like participating in a team. And that's okay. It's okay to have a good day. It's okay to have a bad day. And that needs to be also said in a very normal manner. We are not all 100% performers at the top of our game every single day. Of course not. Equally, the leader is having that issue. Equally, anybody in the chain has the same issues. So there is a bit of humility to be put back in, instead of pinpointing fingers in all directions. Oh, it's a manager, it's a captain. It's so easy to deflect your own issues on somebody else, because like that, you don't need to do anything. But it's also a time for people to reflect on themselves. You want to have a nice team. You lead by example. You set the tone of the mission. Be kind, be firm, but be fair. And I think there is all that in the way you give people the power, but also you guide them. As a leader, you're the one they're guiding. So, and as Kelly and everyone said before, no, you don't have all the answers. I know you're not perfect. And that vulnerability is okay to show. When I took over the role as managing a large team, the first thing I asked was for training. And I told my team, listen, guys, I've never been a leader in this position. I'm going to take training and you will be my guinea pigs and I'll show you and I will show and I will train with you. And as I trained to become a good leader, they got trained at the same time, and we all grew together in this happy place we are now, because we all wanted to go there. If you go into a job, you want to have fun and you want to feel good in your job. It doesn't mean that one person sometimes we see on a boat can make a whole perspective change. But again, is it not for the leader or the colleagues to raise their hand when somebody is having a bad day or having a difficulty to help them out? Shouldn't we be a bit more listeners as opposed to actors? I'm just putting the question out there.
It's one captain has commented, sorry, Robin.
No, I just wanted to add one thing, because I think that's exactly the right approach to take here. But sometimes if the elephant in the room is that someone just doesn't fit either the team or is not capable to do the job, I think it's also the responsibility for a whole team to identify this issue. It's not just one person, but it's the responsibility of this team to see if they can either train a person to come to a point to function in the team to get like the outcomes delivered, and if they can do this investment. Because sometimes if you're in a comfortable team, you have probably extra resources saying, okay, this person is not capable to do this job at this point right now, but we can train this person to this point because we have the time to do so. Then this is an effort worth taken. But quite often teams get into this double ugly situation that they have someone that needs training, but they have not enough resources in the team to provide this training, which then leads to that this person is not getting trained, so hence the team is not performing better, and all of a sudden everything becomes in a way very ugly from a team performance perspective, and everybody's getting angry and frustrated.
You're spot on, Robin, there. And one of the things on yachts is that you should be hiring now and not at the end of April, early May, because there isn't time to do anything, and invariably it ends in a metaphorical car crash for the reasons you've just pointed out. However, the issue behind that is someone is looking at a spreadsheet and headcount is expensive. No, wait until 2 weeks before the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah, true. Not only on yachts like that. It's in
worldwide. I get right? But one of the goals is the spreadsheet. Karen, did you want to say something? Was it?
Well, just on that point that you make, I think thankfully we're now starting to get some data out there that sort of proves crew turnover actually is more expensive than retaining crew. So I think as we get that message out there, that hopefully that perception will improve. I wanted to just pick up on something Robin said about it. It's sometimes it's the minuscule, it's the small changes, it's what you do every day. And a lot of the time when we're talking about leadership development, we're actually talking about helping people change behavior. To become that empathetic listener, it's something you need to make your new default setting, your new habit. And that takes time and persistence and a real desire and want to make that effort to change. Kelly, it's laudable. Every day you look at something around leadership to give you that spark, to give you that encouragement, to be that tiny bit better than before. And that's really the mindset and attitude that we need to get out there and help people to understand. As you said, Michal, it's a journey. It's not a one-stop.
Yeah,
Very true.
Absolutely not. No.
It's interesting. There was a comment in the Q&A. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to tie back again, Robin. It was a really good point you made about junior crew. They have to have ownership of things. And I do actually do a junior crew course, and it's easy for a guy like me to come down to the yacht and start explaining that like the world doesn't owe you anything. You know, when did you last do something new? When you're given feedback by senior crew, do you reflect on that, etc., or do you just moan and complain about that person behind their back? Ownership of problems is a journey until the end when you're at the top. So yeah, do I think there should be a refresher in leadership every year, every 6 months? Yes. Large American multinationals figured out their only differentiator. They figured this out in the 70s, 80s. Their only differentiator is the people, right? And how empowered the people are within their organization. There are 500 new billionaires every year in the world. Any one of them can buy a fancy yacht with jet skis and all the fancy gizmos, but what's going to be the differentiator between them and the next yacht?
Yeah, probably
the ones keeping their crew.
Correct, absolutely. But you need people invested in what they're doing, and I have sympathy with that. There's a chap, Luca, there, who talked about, he asked a question at the start about being micromanaged. It's always proven in every industry, you get the least out of people if you micromanage them. So that is actually a management issue. And this best socialized with the micromanager, because you'll get work to rule and the least input back.
That brings us on to the next poll question nicely. If you have a problem with the captain or your HOD, or actually if there is any issues on board, who is your first point of call? Does everybody know their management company? And like you said, Luca actually asked the question, what happens when there's a conflict between, or he said the yacht managers were overruling captains?
Yes, that was the micromanagement one. But yes, we see, like in the poll, a lot of people wrote speak to the captain, chose speak to the captain. A few picked yacht manager, a few the DPA, and a few I don't know. So what's your recommendation?
Quite happy to start off if everyone else agrees. Yeah. There is a line of command on board a vessel, and when a vessel is linked with a management company, there is also procedures. And on board a yacht, normally there is a complaint procedure, and there is also, the captain's standing orders. So in case of issues, and also in your contract, you should be given. In your SCA, you should be given the details of the people you can call in case of issues. You should have a complaint procedure on your crew mess board that you can reach out to. If you don't want, normally you should always try to figure out the problem at the first level possible. So if you are a junior crew member, you go to your HOD. If your HOD is a problem, then you go to the one above. If the one above is a problem, you still go to the one above. And when it is, so HOD, if you can't get on with that person, you go to your captain, absolutely. But if you don't have a good relationship with your captain, or if you're afraid of what can come back, you have a DPA on a vessel, which is usually not all boats have DPAs. Don't forget that part. So some boats don't have a DPA, but if they do have a management company, don't hesitate to call the management company. And at the beginning of your call, you say, this is a confidential matter and I'd like it to be taken as such. And basically, everyone is under the obligation to give you the guidance and the advice to go higher up. When the issues with the captain, us as yacht managers, we have seen that a few times in our career. Again, the yacht management company is a very good place to go to when the captain is an issue. All this is all very well laid out when there is a manager, a management company, and a vessel. But I feel very sorry for all the people who do not have all those branches, all those people that they
Yes.
can call or reach out to.
Yeah, I just want to add something really briefly in there. Sometimes it doesn't work, right? Now, I learned of my career that it's at the interview stage, right? Say what you have to say, right? And I've sat there across from the really rich guy who was supposed to be interviewing me, at which I've said, look, this is what I can do for you, right? And if it doesn't work for you, please do not give me this job. Nobody's ever talked to him like that before. But you're setting out your stall about communication and what you believe will work for you and what you can deliver. And I really meant it. I didn't want to be micromanaged. I was going to do the best I can. And I wanted clear lines of communication.
You're absolutely right, Michal. It's so important that the line of communication is set straight from the start. But the same way, when you've got a management company who's overruling what the captain says or the owner says, is also not good. So you would want to only work with people you like, ideally, and to avoid all those issues. If you don't like a situation, and if it's becoming toxic and unhealthy, don't stay. No one is forcing you to work in a boat where the captain is, let's say you have a captain who's overruling and the owner and the management company. I've seen that. Owners call me and said, oh, I don't want to go on board our yacht because the captain tells us it's not the right time to go on board their own vessel. We've seen it all. It doesn't mean that it's right, and it's very difficult to help crew members to go through that journey. But if you are feeling that you are in a jeopardized situation, don't stay. No one is forcing you to work on a boat where the environment is unhealthy. Why would you put up with somebody who's unpolite or unrespectful? It's there is plenty jobs out there, and Michal just said it very well. You tell an owner or you tell the captain, I would like these parameters in my job description. Is it possible? And then you take the job.
Really, how does it work on your boat when if any of your team have any issues, or in your experience, if you've been on a boat where you've had an issue maybe with a former captain, what have you seen work as the protocol?
You know, I find that a lot of times crew members will want to run straight to me or straight to the captain. And the first question that I always ask them is if they have an issue with somebody on board. The first thing out of my mouth is, have you gone to them about that? Because I know if I was in their shoes or the person that they were potentially upset with, I would want to know. I would want you to come to me. So I always ask them, have you gone to the person that you have the issue with first? At least give them that, because they might not know what they're doing. So go to them first. If that doesn't work, go to your HOD. If that doesn't work, then come to me. If I'm the problem or the captain's the problem, again, still give me the decency and the opportunity to correct whatever issue it is. I think whoever it is that's offending you, if that's the word that we want to use, or whoever you're having the issue with, go to them first. Give them the opportunity and the respect to make that change. And then if that doesn't work, you've gone to the HOD, you've gone to the captain, keep climbing, keep going, go the one next step above. And the one thing that I want to echo is you're not a tree. You can move. So if you don't like the job, if it's not working for you, if it's toxic, move. And so to answer the question, though, specifically about how it works on my boat, we have an amazing team. And I've got crew members that have been with me for years, and it's been a ton of work. I spend the majority of my day just working with the relationships of my crew and communicating with them, and it has paid off. But if they have a problem with me, they'll tell me. They'll tell me straight up. If I mean, we're to the point, and we get along and we get on so well that, you know, if I'm driving them nuts, they'll tell me. If they're driving me nuts, I'll tell them. But they also know, and I make sure everybody has access to, we don't have a management company per se, but we have an owner's representative. Everybody has his email. Everybody has his phone number. So they all know that if they need to escalate something beyond, or they need to reach out to that person, to go ahead. I encourage it, but I do ask, hey, if you've got an issue with me or somebody else in the boat, address it with them first. Give them the opportunity to fix that issue. And I would say probably 9 times out of 10, it works, because the person that was being the butthead, so to speak, didn't know that they offended them, didn't know, or that they had something going on. You know, there's days that I'm not happy go lucky, cherry bubbly, smiley every day, and my crew have gotten to a really good place to where we all check in with one another, you know, and they ask, hey, is something going on? Or, hey, can I take something off of your plate? And same thing with them.
I think
Karen,
this
do you
ties very
find-
well
sorry.
with a question that we received about someone who says, well, what happens if the safety harassment comes from the captain and the HODs on board, and the management company refuses to do anything about it? So this is a difficult one. But, you know, if one has tried talking to the people and nothing changes and nothing happens.
That's like Kelly said, if nothing works, move.
Yeah.
Don't stay in a place where you don't have an exit, because if they're all not listening, then there is a real problem. If even the management company is not listening, or the flag state, or the owner himself, I mean, I don't know how high you can go, but usually when you have an issue, you try at your first level, and then you go the next step. But if you get to reach above the captain, you've got the yacht management company who is in cahoots with the captain. That's also strange. It's not their role. As I said, they should teamwork. And then if it doesn't work with the owner, if it doesn't work with a flag, and do you really want to go through all those steps? Usually when you're feeling in that position, you might need to find people who resemble you a bit more. We all tend to work with people who resemble ourselves. You like to be treated. You try to treat people the way you like to be treated. So undeniably, you'll attract people with your own, with the same vision, with the same passion, with the same values, and then you are able to move forward.
So Marianne, would you agree with me? And I'll drag Robin in on this as well. There's a shortage of good people, right? If it's not working and you've gone through all those hoops, there is a really huge shortage of good people in yachting. And that's not unique to yachting, Robin. I'm sure you can confirm that. Everyone is chasing a limited pool of talent, right? Don't get consumed in a toxic environment, right? Management companies, boats should be employing good people and supporting them.
Yeah. No, I think like this is the biggest issue we have in most industries, especially when we're looking into developed markets, that in nearly every industry we have a lack of talent available, and sometimes you just have one person available that applied at all, or that you can afford, or whatever the reason for that is. And I think the yachting industry is not very far away from that as well, that there's by default not enough people for all the boats, so you're always either short-handed or with a wild mix of a crew or whatever. But I think there's like different kind of layers that you can bring to that to fix certain things. So I think what Kelly said is like super right. Like try to fix the problems at the intersections where they're actually occurring, and if they occur, I think next to good leadership, you also need good management, because leadership is one part of it, but management is the other part of that. So for example, most of those issues you normally have resulting in team conflicts is something that you can have once, find a solution for that, and then define a management framework for that, either with a standard operating procedure or any kind of other standardization on board, either by establishing rules or having like a shared value set, what have you, right? Because I'm not sure how it is on yachts, right? Because I've never been working on one, but if I know from teams, like you have like this typical issues that people say, oh, this guy always leaves their dirty coffee cup on the table and it drives me crazy. So I think the same probably applies on a boat, right? Where people say, like, oh, they always drop their clothes on the floor and it drives me crazy or whatever. So just define one times the rule, because if you have a rule or a standard operation procedure, it takes out the ambiguity of a human being. You can always say like, hey, we as a team have defined we want to do it like this. What we have right now here is not how we defined it. So we either change how we defined it, or you need to change your behavior. Then it takes out the ambiguity and makes it a little bit more neutral. Because a lot of those conflicts and a lot of those elephants we normally have in team dynamics in the room are subjective. It's like I feel like that, and you say like, oh, I feel like this, and this is not the best foundation to find a solution.
I think something that's important, very simple though, is you need to check yourself too. So let's say you're having trouble with everybody on your boat, and you think your department head, sucks. You think your captain sucks. The management company does too. Check yourself. Are you part of the problem? Are you battling something on the inside that you really need to maybe address so that you can be a better part of the team? So I think a lot of times people are really quick to point the fingers of oh, the captain's not doing his job, or the HOD's not doing their job. Well, are you doing your job? Are you pleasant to work with? Are you fun to work with? And it just seems so simple, but I think we need to remind ourselves to check ourselves and make sure we're doing our part of the team as well.
Can I
advance on that? I mean, that's where you've got those tools that you should use in teams. And like you say, how to check yourself, put people in different situations. Ask people to do somebody else's job for half a day. Usually after an hour, they will understand that the job that they are being trained for, and when they are finger pointing to somebody else's job, when they stand in their shoes, suddenly they understand it's not that easy. So I like the swapping of roles. You put somebody who is normally in one area of the vessel into another one. A very simple example, you put the engineer into the laundry room for an hour and the laundryman into the engine room. They both will know that they can't do the job, and suddenly they will revert back by having a bit more respect for each other's job. Usually why people do have conflicts is because they don't understand what the other one is doing. There is a lack of understanding, there is a lack of knowledge. How do you fix that? Is you share a lot more information. Information is a key in making people understand that actually, if you don't want any problems, you can make your life super easy. Share the information. Stop hiding what you know. Share the knowledge. We are coming from a generation where people use, because they are the captains, they know everything. That's what we used to think. Now we've made huge steps forward. Nobody knows everything. So in that respect, the more you share the information, the more people are tending to grow regardless. Like I was mentioning, as a tool, I'm just giving an example for people having conflicts on board their boats. Look at yourself. Yes, Kelly, you're absolutely right. But what about you take one of the cabins or one of the places on the boat and you say, this is a safe zone speaking. You have an issue with somebody, you can tell me everything you don't like about me. I do the same, but we're not allowed, only one rule, you're not allowed to get angry. So both can talk their minds, and you will find quite often when you do that exercise that in fact people they realize that they don't have an issue. They're both reproaching to the other person what they don't like in themselves. Why do we finger point? It's easy.
We do an exercise on our boat every so often, and it's called Inside Out Day. And that's where outside comes inside, inside goes outside. And it's a hoot. It's a complete madhouse. Nothing gets done that day. We have a ton of laughs, and we gain a tremendous amount of respect for everybody's role on board.
And this ties really well with our last question on the poll, which is, how often do you have one-to-one meetings with your team, HOD, captain. So most of the people required regularly, including during high season. So this is quite good, but from what I've been hearing, you know, communication is essential. It's really what allows people to deal with any issues that they're having on board. Who would like to go next? Karen, maybe?
You know, this is my little bandwagon. So yeah, I always encourage senior crew to have a one-to-one with their juniors. And if you sort of siphon it out well enough, you shouldn't need to speak to any one individual more than once a month or thereabouts. And hopefully that means if you're only leading 4 or 5 people, that's half an hour once a week. That should be doable, whatever the season, however busy things are. And I think it ticks a lot of boxes. It saves a lot of headaches. Kelly, you were talking about making sure you check yourself. Well, there's the ideal opportunity to have a sounding board and to check yourself and to get some feedback and to encourage that individual, if they've got an issue with someone or something, to deal with it themselves. But quite often what we find is that it's the thing that gives. You know, you get busy, we're all tired, so we don't make the time for it. And now it's the end of the season and we're having a download both ways. And it's kind of too late.
Yeah, can I just volunteer something, and it ties into what we were talking about. One thing is look, when you phrase that, it's the manager's job or head of department, his job is, or her job is actually to listen. Okay, and it ties into the whole conflict issue, right? Most conflicts start with a need and people end up in conflict, right? There are 4 stages and the middle 2 are missed out. And that's where someone asks if that need can be met, and it's either a yes or a no, right? In the day-to-day humdrum of work, right, it's just a rambling commentary. That's not a one-to-one. In the one-to-one, you sit there and you listen as a head of department, and you can pick up on potential conflict areas. It has an extra benefit as well. We've all worked on a yacht where there's someone complaining, moaning, whinging, right? This is a way of containing the moaner and complainer on the back deck or in the interior, because they have the opportunity every month to sit down in a formal environment and give their feedback. And it drags everyone else down, but it gives everyone else the opportunity to say, well, why don't you bring that up in your one-to-one with your line manager or your head of department? And it contains the problem over there. In reality, which I know this would be close to Kelly's heart, is quite often that person has mentally exhausted themselves. And it's a big, big issue on yachts. But the one-to-one is a hugely important tool. Nobody learned anything by just talking. That's Mahatma Gandhi, not me.
One-to-ones are huge, and it can be just as simple as asking a crew to go to lunch or taking a walk down the dock. And I don't have planned per se one-on-ones. I go, I'm very much a vibe on the feel, on the energy kind of leader and person in general. And so I will just every so often, I will grab whatever crew member that I feel is needing it the most, and we'll go for a walk, and we'll go for a walk and talk, I call it, or we'll sit down, or we'll go get lunch, or we'll get coffee. And so I try to make sure that I have those one-on-ones, but if you don't, it gets away from you, and it gets away quicker than what you realize.
On the one-to-ones, I will say I used to have them quite formalized at the beginning of my journey as a leader. And recently, by far more, like just like Kelly, it's more a natural thing. I have a open door policy, and I try to catch people from time to time, and we have a one-to-one when it's possible. But as an advice to anyone who is working in a team, if your leader is sometimes overworked, which happens, and I know what I'm talking about, then I would say ask for a one-to-one. If you haven't spoken to your head of department for a while, or if you have something which is sometimes your leader doesn't see everything because he might be just overwhelmingly too busy, demand it. It's part of your right to have a one-to-one. So again, it goes both ways. From what I started in the beginning of this webinar, leadership is everyone's business and not
It's
just
a two-way
the head of
street.
departments. Two-way street.
It's
Yeah.
a two-way street. And I think what you just said Marianne, is so important. And it's not so much demanding the one-on-one, ask for it, because there's days that my head is just so deep in what I'm doing and so consumed with what I'm doing that sometimes it's just almost like, you just have to slap me upside the head to say, hey, I need something.
Here.
I need to talk to you. And it's not because I don't care. That's not it at all. It's because I'm so much inside my own head. So younger crew need to realize, don't put all this on the captain, because this is a two-way street and we're a team. So if I'm not giving you what you need, please tell me, because there could be something going on. I have bad days too.
Yeah, you can't read what's in other people's minds. It's a very valid point.
Yeah,
So we have sorry, Robin, we have a few minutes left. So I will let every one of you add one last comment, because one of the questions was, what is the takeaway action item for today? So some of you have already said a few. So please go ahead, Robin, and maybe you can give us your takeaway action.
Well, and then I combine my last comment with a takeaway action. So that's that one-on-ones, because I think it also sums up two really important aspects. So one thing related to like having these interactions, these private conversations, is you need to have trust for that. Quite often we're still in teams where if you have a one-on-one, someone considers that as, oh, something bad is going on. They sleep for 2 days really bad because they think they will get, I don't know, fired or whatever. So like establishing this trust and also the purpose of these kind of interaction, I think is really, really important. And then also, and this is probably the takeaway for me for this part, is to say, like, it needs to be also meaningful. Quite often we have a lot of artificial leadership routines embedded into teams or organizations that are just not meaningful. A good one is the typical daily stand-ups or something like that. They are great if you have to talk about something every single day and if there's an outcome out of that. But if you're ending up, everybody comes together, everybody comes late with their coffee just to figure out, oh, we have just a coffee to drink and nothing really happens, so it loses the meaningfulness of that. So I think like what Marianne and also Kelly said, like making this more meaningful in the sense that it can be also more natural is really helpful. And we have, for example, in our team, the Devil's Monday. This happens once every month, and the Devil's Monday is where one person of the team is just assigned to identify everything that is running badly in our team. It's really the whole idea that this devil then on that day, every time someone else can really openly say, this is not good, this is not good, this is not good. And it takes out all the pressure because it's an assigned role and has the ownership to that. And it works beautifully because every month we have the opportunity as a team to really focus on what is not going really well. And sometimes it's minorities, sometimes bigger things that really helps. So I think playing with different kind of tools and methodologies that are working on a day in, day out basis, that are bringing fun to the team, that are building trust and bringing ownership to the table, that's much better than trying to use as much tools as possible and trying to build an artificial leadership culture. It's like really about making work what works for oneself and what works for the team.
Thank you, Robin. Karen, what would you like to say?
I think it's difficult, one thing. I think be the best as a leader, be the best version of yourself that you can be. Lead by example, be beyond reproach, be fair. And maybe just every now and then look yourself in the mirror and ask the question, would I like to be led by me?
Oh.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Michal?
I'll be brief because time is very precious. As a leader, listen with the intent of understanding rather than listening with the intent of replying.
Ooh.
Thank you. Kelly?
Be vulnerable, be compassionate, be kind.
And Marianne?
Be humble.
Perfect. Sarah, what would you like to add?
Oh, I think our experts have said everything there. I love the self-reflection and the self-education. Hopefully everyone's taken that away with them. I know there's a lot of questions that came in. It was amazing. Kim and I will go through them and try and get some answers for as many of them as possible, and we can share with everybody after, with all of everyone that's tuned in today. And we'll share everybody's details here. We'll ask for any recommendations or advice or any links they want to share to help with leadership questions or onward training and any advice they've got. So
thank you everyone for joining us today. I think it was a really excellent discussion. We got a lot of tips. We got a lot of questions, as Sarah said, we'll get back to. So thank you so much to our panelists for making the time and for our guests to attending, and hopefully we'll see you soon with another webinar. Have a good day.
bye everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a
Bye-bye.
great day.
Thank you.